The railway station was a place of dust, echoes, and departures, a crossroads where dreams either boarded trains or were left behind like forgotten parcels. That morning the heat pressed down heavy, the sun glaring against warped wooden planks and iron tracks that hummed faintly from a train long gone. The air smelled of coal smoke and horse sweat. Voices called, boots shuffled, but amid the bustle sat a woman with her hands pressed tight to her face, shoulders shaking. Her name was Lily, 23, a mail-order bride who had traveled across half the country with hope folded carefully into her satchel. Her dress, once pale blue, was travel-stained and wrinkled, its hem ragged where train cinders had caught. She wore no bonnet now, only loose strands of chestnut hair sticking damp against her temples. She had been waiting for 2 days, 2 endless days, for the man who was meant to collect her. He had written promises of a home, of respect, of a life in the wide frontier. But no one had come. Not a telegram. Not a word. Only silence. And now, sitting on the station's rough bench, she finally broke. Her sobs were muffled by the fabric of her gloves, but one man heard them clearly. He sat across the platform, a retired army soldier named Ethan McGraw, 37, broad-shouldered, with the quiet air of someone who had seen both war and its after. His hair was sun-faded brown, streaked with early gray, and his beard rough-hewn. He had come to town to buy nails and kerosene, perhaps a pound of flour, nothing more. Yet his eyes, trained long ago to notice the tremble of a rifle barrel on distant hills, now caught the tremble of her shoulders. He hesitated. A soldier learns not to step where he's not wanted. But he saw the way others glanced at her, dismissive, even scornful. A stray woman, uncollected. A bride no one claimed. In a town that thrived on judgment, that could be as dangerous as a rattler coiled beneath the porch. Ethan rose, his boots striking the boards with steady weight. He carried no swagger, no rush. Only a kind of quiet certainty, the same that had carried him through battles far from these plains. He stood before her, casting a long shadow in the sun. "You dropped this," he said, holding out the small handkerchief she hadn't noticed fall from her lap. His voice was low, steady, like water over stone. She lifted her head, eyes red, cheeks streaked. Her lips trembled as she took the cloth. "Thank you." He nodded, about to step away. But something in her gaze, lost, raw, cornered, caught him. He shifted, glancing toward the telegraph office, then back at her. "You waiting for someone?" The question broke her anew. She pressed the cloth to her lips, breath shuddering. Finally she whispered, "No one's coming." Those words lingered like smoke. Ethan didn't speak. He only reached down, lifting her travel-worn satchel from the floor, and said, "Come on. You shouldn't sit here another hour." She stared. "Where?" "Somewhere decent. A roof. You'll eat." And just like that, her fate shifted. The ride to his homestead was long and quiet. Lily sat beside him in the wagon, hands folded tightly in her lap. The horse's hoofs thudded against the dry earth. Ethan didn't pry, didn't speak unless necessary. Now and then she caught him studying the horizon, eyes narrowed as though measuring distance, gauging threat. She found some safety in that stillness. The land opened wide around them, tall grass bending in the wind, cottonwoods flashing silver leaves along the creek bed. Heat shimmered on the horizon, yet a distant storm line painted the sky darker in the west. Lily's chest tightened at every rumble of thunder, as if the world itself mirrored her unrest. By the time they reached his cabin, dusk had draped the prairie in gold and shadow. The cabin was modest, logs chinked with clay, a porch leaning slightly, smoke rising from the chimney. Yet it was whole, standing, alive with quiet dignity. Ethan helped her down, not by offering his hand. He seemed a man reluctant to touch, but by steadying the satchel she clutched, letting her lean her weight as she stepped. Inside, the cabin smelled of pine smoke and leather, the faint tang of oil from his rifle rack. A table sat in the center, scarred but clean. 2 chairs. A bed neatly made against the far wall. "Sit," he said simply, pulling out a chair. He ladled stew from the pot on the stove into a tin bowl, sliding it before her with bread on the side. She hadn't realized how hollow she was until the scent struck her. Tears pricked again, but she hid them, eating slowly, each bite a reminder she was still alive. Ethan ate across from her in silence, not watching her but not ignoring her either. Later, when she folded the empty bowl back toward him, he asked only, "What's your name?" "Lily." He nodded once. "Ethan." The exchange was enough. Days blurred into a rhythm. Lily swept floors, fetched water, mended what she could. Ethan worked the corral, split wood road fence lines. He never asked her story, though pieces slipped out like threads tugged loose. A photograph she pulled from her satchel, her mother long gone. The letter she clutched, promising marriage to a man named Harlan Pike who never appeared. At night, when thunder cracked and wind shook the shutters, she dreamed of voices sneering at her, unwanted, forgotten, cast aside. She would wake trembling, only to hear Ethan moving about, stoking the fire, steady as stone. Then one morning news came. A rider stopped at the cabin, dust covering his coat. He carried word from town. Harlan Pike had been seen. Not vanished. Not dead. Drinking in the saloon, laughing with men who boasted of the little bride left crying at the station. Lily froze. Her blood turned to ice. Ethan's jaw tightened. He said nothing until the rider left, tipping his hat. Then he turned to Lily. He'll come. Men like him always do. Mean to finish what they started. Her heart thudded. What do I do? You stand. And you don't let his words tell you what you're worth. The storm broke 2 nights later. Wind tore across the prairie, rain slashing sideways, lightning carving white veins across the sky. Lily clutched her shawl close, standing by the window as torches bobbed in the distance. 3 riders cutting through the storm. Her breath caught. Ethan was already pulling the rifle from its rack, movements calm, deliberate. He set the lantern low, shadows stretching across the cabin walls. Stay behind me. The horses neighed outside, hooves splashing in mud. Then came the pounding on the door. A voice rang, slurred with drink yet sharp with cruelty. Lily, you belong to me. I paid for that letter and I'll take what's mine. She flinched, the words cutting deeper than the storm outside. Ethan stepped forward, voice even. You've had your say. Leave. Laughter answered. Old soldier thinks he can guard a woman left on a bench like trash? Step aside or we'll burn this shack down with her in it. Lightning flashed, illuminating Lily's pale face. Ethan looked at her once, just once, and in that glance she felt something unspoken. You're worth defending. The door burst inward. 3 men stumbled through, dripping rain, guns glinting. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. Then Ethan moved. His rifle cracked, a deafening roar swallowed by thunder. 1 man dropped, screaming, leg torn. Ethan swung the butt hard into another's jaw, splintering bone. The 3rd raised his pistol, but Lily, heart pounding, hands shaking, snatched the iron poker from the fire and swung with all her strength. The weapon struck the man's wrist, sending his gun clattering to the floor. Ethan finished it. Swift. Certain. When silence returned, broken only by rain hissing against the stove, Lily stood shaking, poker still in hand. Ethan lowered his rifle, breath steady. He looked at her, not as a burden, not as a cast-off bride, but as someone who had fought beside him. The men were dragged outside, left to the storm's mercy. Inside, the fire glowed warm again. Lily collapsed into the chair, tears spilling. Not of despair but of release. Ethan crouched before her, rough hand hovering before resting gently over hers. You're not nobody, he said quietly. Not here. For the first time she believed it. At dawn, the storm had passed, leaving the land washed clean, the air sharp with earth and rain. Lily stepped outside, shawl around her shoulders, watching the sun climb slow over the prairie. Ethan joined her, standing close but not crowding her. The horizon stretched endless, but for the first time, it felt like possibility rather than exile. She turned, meeting his steady gaze. He didn't speak vows, didn't offer promises carved in air. He simply stood as he always had, like a wall against the storm. And in that, Lily found the home she had been searching for. Out here, in the wide silence of the frontier, a person could be forgotten like a scrap of paper blowing down the tracks. But sometimes, just sometimes, the right pair of eyes will see you. And when they do, you learn that worth isn't granted by those who abandon you, but by those who stand beside you when the storm comes. Now, click on the story waiting on your screen. It's even more stirring than this one, and I promise it'll stay with you. Go on. I'll meet you there.